Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Rodolfo Roman. I am the Community Outreach Specialist for the Sidewalk Project located along State Road 915, Northeast 6th Avenue, from Northeast 113th Street to Northeast 121 Street. Thank you for joining us today here at our virtual public meeting. Before we start the presentation, I will share a few items regarding the workshop format. Due to the state of emergency declared by Governor DeSantis in Executive Order 2052, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting is authorized to be held virtually and not in person. We are using the GoToWebinar meeting platform for this meeting. There is no cost to the public to log in or dial in to participate in this meeting. On your computer or device screen, you should see something that looks what you're seeing right now on your screen on the upper right-hand corner. It is a control panel, which you can see. You can adjust your audio and shift from computer audio to phone call audio or no audio at all. To listen to the meeting, your computer or device speakers are selected by default. If you prefer to listen by phone, select telephone in the audio panel of the control panel and dial in using the information displayed. I'd like to introduce to you our project team on hold this evening here. First and foremost, our FDOT project manager, Ms. Bao Ying Wang. Our consultant project manager, Mr. George Lopez. Our consultant project engineer of record, Mr. Hans Rivik. Our roadway engineer, Mahir Maliki. Our landscape architect, Ms. Shay Hansen. Our lighting engineer, Mr. Christopher Tillett. And myself, I stated, I am the Community Outreach Specialist, Mr. Rodolfo Roman. The Florida Department of Transportation is required to comply with various non-discrimination laws and regulations, including the Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Public participation at this virtual public meeting is solicited without regard to race, color, national origin, age, sex, religion, disability, or family status. Persons wishing to express their concerns about Title VI may do so by contacting our District 6 Title Coordinator, Ms. Irene Varela, at 305-470-5342 or in writing at FDOT 1000 Northwest 111 Avenue, Miami, Florida 33172, or by email at irene.varela@dot.state.fl.us, or our State Title VI Coordinator, Ms. Jacqueline Paramore, at 850-414-4753, or in writing at the Equal Opportunity Office, 605 Sewanee Street, MS 65, Tallahassee, Florida 32399, or by email jacqueline.paramore@dot.state.fl.us. Now, here's the rules of engagement during our virtual public workshop or meeting. Is being recorded. If you experience any technical difficulties, please contact Ms. Wanda Calixte at 786-269-4146. That's 786-269-4146, or by email at wana@iscprgroup.com so that she can assist you during the virtual public meeting. Attendings will remain muted throughout the workshop except for the open discussion session. Use the raise your hand button on your GoToWebinar panel to provide a comment. Provide your full name, first address, and also your email, and you can go ahead and share your comment. Attendees are welcome to submit questions, comments using the GoToWebinar question panel, and a member of the team will respond during the open discussion. Participants will have 3 minutes to ask questions and provide comments. The meeting will begin with a presentation and followed by comments and questions. With that said, I'm going to throw it now to the team for our presentation. Team?
Thank you, Rodolfo. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for letting us present this project. As Rodolfo mentioned before, the project is along State Road 915, Northeast 6th Avenue, from Northeast 113th Street to Northeast 121st Street. The project length is about half a mile. A brief background of this project. In April 2018, the Village of Biscayne Park previous commission and manager requested the FDOT to add sidewalk within this corridor. A study was initiated which determined the feasibility of this project. Back in 2019, the Village of Biscayne Park also requested to upgrade the efficient lighting system along the corridor. FDOT approved this scope and determined that they will only cover the cost of conventional lighting, and the village is to cover the cost difference for decorative lighting. As a result of all the previous coordination and requests, the scope of project includes new sidewalk along both sides of the road within FDOT right-of-way, new lighting system to replace. Can you go to the previous slide, please? New lighting system to replace the current deficient one, incidental drainage improvements due to the sidewalk addition, the upgrade of crosswalks and pedestrian signalization features at the Northeast 113th Street intersection, and also landscape modifications within the FDOT right-of-way. Some relevant dates and milestones for this project. The design was initiated on November 2019. The letting date is scheduled for July 2021. The construction start date is scheduled for November 2021. The end of construction date is scheduled for June 2022. And the cost of construction is approximately $2.6 million, which includes the cost difference for decorative lighting. Some of the issues and concerns we found during our initial design phase are summarized on the table on this slide. First of all, in order to provide a safe sidewalk, the sidewalk has to be placed as far away as possible from the road. Our project will maintain decorative driveways. The new sidewalk will connect to the existing decorative driveways at the approaches of the driveways. There are also several landscape encroachments within the FDOT right-of-way. Our team, led by the FDOT Property Management Office, will coordinate with each of the individual property owners for the relocation or removal of these encroachments. License agreements also will be required at some properties where the proposed back-of sidewalk or driveway needs to be harmonized. Our right-of-way office team will also coordinate with the residents that requires to sign these license agreements. Our maintenance of traffic was designed to avoid any nighttime work and is going to provide at least one travel lane open at each direction at all times. Access to properties will remain. Any temporary driveway impact due to drainage installation will be closely coordinated with the property owner during construction. And finally, the FDOT is to enter in a locally funding agreement with the Village of Biscayne Park to cover the cost difference of $400,000 for decorative lighting. Otherwise, conventional lighting will be provided and fully covered by the FDOT. The decorative lighting was closely coordinated with the Village Public Works Office since the project design started. With this, Mehar, our lead roadway engineer, is gonna go more into the technical portion of the project. Mehar?
Thank you, Hans. Hans has covered a lot of the things that I will be covering. However, I'm going to be focusing in and showing you guys from an aerial perspective the roadway improvements that will be proposed. As he mentioned, there's going to be some crosswalk improvements at 113th Street. Currently, there's only one crosswalk along the south side of the intersection. And as you can see here in the picture, we're adding crosswalks on all legs of the intersection. So that's definitely an improvement to the area. In addition, we're going to be adding a new striping, and we're going to be adding ADA features such as the curb ramps and the the pedestrian signals. As you see here in the light shaded gray, let me zoom in. Okay. As you see here in the light shaded gray on both sides of the roadway, we are proposing the sidewalk. For safety reasons, we're going to be placing the sidewalk as far back up against the right-of-way as possible. As we go through the project, you will see different colored symbols. Oops, give me 1 second, sorry. Okay, here we go. You'll see different symbols that will show you different features of the roadway. So for example, here on the right side, we have roadway lighting feature that will be placed. On the other side of the roadway, you'll see another symbol that shows you a different kind of lighting feature, and we will cover that later on. We'll also show in a light purple color the drainage system that will be added to the project to mitigate any runoff because of this added sidewalk. As you see here, driveways were added at different locations of the project, obviously to maintain access to the properties. At some locations where we have decorative driveways, we refrained from modifying or touching these driveways. And our approach was to change the profile along the sidewalk to tie down to the existing driveways where possible. Obviously, the driveways had to meet certain criteria, one of which was the ADA criteria. In some locations, such as this one here, you'll see a gray driveway, which means that you're getting a new concrete driveway that will be tying into your property and to your driveway. As we go through the project also, please note that for safety reasons, we added a couple of pavement markings to remind drivers that this is a 30-mile-per-hour zone. We have placed one on the south side of the project, one just south of 119th, and one north of 119th intersection, and another one actually right at the end of the project. And here's, sorry, it's a little slow on my end here. Okay, here's the 30-mile-per-hour pavement markings, again, to remind the drivers that this is a 30-mile-per-hour zone. In addition to the sidewalk, we are placing a small swale, a 4-foot swale between the sidewalk and the roadway to capture any runoff from the outside lanes and from the sidewalk and convey it into our system. A lot of these systems are small closed systems. They include French drain systems that will capture the water and convey it into the underground table. And as we go through the project also, we are, just to show you here, we're replacing the speed feedback sign, which is outdated as well. The next slide is going to show you a visualization of, actually we have a few visualization slides that are going to show you the daytime and nighttime. Here we go. Daytime and nighttime feel of what the project's going to look like once it's completed. So as you see here, just south of 115th Street, we have the 6-foot sidewalk. A small portion of it has a curb and gutter adjacent to it, but as we go further into the project, the curb goes away, and then we keep the flush feel to the project. So here you also see that there's a handicapped person on a wheelchair. That person is gonna have access from the beginning of the project all the way to the end of the project with all the curb ramps that we're adding. In addition, you see just by the gentleman wearing the blue shirt that there's a decorative driveway that we are maintaining. So the sidewalk will taper down, tie into that driveway, and we'll pick it up on the other side. You will notice also that the different lights are shown on both sides of the roadway. So as we go to the next slide, you will see the nighttime visualization. This is what it's going to look like during nighttime. Okay. Let's keep in mind that these lights are meeting certain criteria as requested by the village. They also have to meet the DOT's criteria, obviously, and we'll get into a little more details about the lights later on. Here's another slide showing a few folks walking on the sidewalks and showing the ADA curb ramps that we have been proposing. Nighttime visualization of that area, same area, will be such as this one. In this visualization, we're showing a different kind of driveway. This is a concrete driveway that the sidewalk connects to. In some areas, we will need, as Hans mentioned, license agreements to tie in. In some areas, we don't. So it really depends on the property. And as Hans has mentioned, you'll be contacted by the right-of-way folks when the time comes. As you see also, there's a small swale on both sides. For clarity purposes, we didn't show the drainage on all the pictures, or any of the pictures rather, just because it gets a little too complicated and a little too graphical to show it. Nighttime visualization of the area. Here's a good picture of what the lights would look like if the decorative lights were chosen and agreed on. As you see on the different sides of the street, you see different light poles, and the reason for that is that on one side of the street you have utility overhead utilities. On the other side you don't. So again, this is a light pole that's going right through the proposed sidewalk. It's placed up against the back of the sidewalk to provide as much clear width as possible. Here's a nighttime visualization of the same area. Here's another shot with another location, daytime and nighttime, showing the connection of the driveways again, showing the new sidewalk. Okay, as for the lights, we have, as I said, two different light poles. The light pole is shown on the right side is the one that's being proposed. A very similar light pole is the one that's shown on the left side. And this is installed here in Miami. And the reason why we chose this one on one side, again, is that there's no overhead utilities. However, we chose this one because of the overhead utilities, where we had to stay clear of them. And as you see on the left side of the presentation, the light pole does have utilities over it. And that's exactly the main reason why we used it. If an LFA is not agreed on and not entered, then we will be proposing the conventional lights, which you see throughout the city. And this is a good example of what the conventional light will look like. And Rodolfo, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Hans. Thank you, Mahir. So at this point, we're going to have our question and answer portion of the virtual public meeting. You could submit your comments in the question box located right there on your control panel, which you can see. If you experience any technical difficulties, again, I advise to contact Ms. Walna Calixte at 786-269-4146. That's 786-269-4146, or by email at walna@iscprgroup.com. That is walna@iscprgroup.com. Now, after addressing comments in the question box, we will open the microphones. If we are unable to answer your questions, the project team will provide a written response after the meeting. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand. Participants will have 3 minutes to provide comments and questions to allow others to speak. You can click the raise hand button right there on your control panel located on the upper right-hand corner. Once again, if you're having any technical difficulties, you can contact Juana at 786-269-4146, or by email, juana@iscprgroup.com. Now, tonight's presentation and information about our project is available on our project page, which you are seeing on your screen as we speak. You can go ahead and copy that, and you can obtain all the information that we are showing here tonight. So in just a few seconds, we are going to now show, we call it a roll plot. If you could just give me a few short time here. Pull this up real quickly. And also now, as we proceed, I'd like to acknowledge elected officials that are joining us this evening here at our virtual public meeting. I'd like to first acknowledge Senator Pizzo is joining us this evening here during our virtual public meeting. Also on board, we have Biscayne Park Mayor, Ms. Virginia O'Happen, Vice Mayor McDonald Kennedy, Commissioner Roxana Ross, Commissioner Dan Samaria, and also interim village manager, Mr. John Winklejohn, are joining us right now. I'd like to first start off with some of the questions that we have received. They were emailed to us. Once again, I'll read those questions, but I'd like to first open up the floor to the elected officials. We're going to have them on. If we could just pull them up real quickly. Seconds here again. Once friendly reminder, raise your hand if you would like to speak during this question and answer portion. Let's open up here. Let me find us here. Hang on 1 second. Go ahead and then welcome in. Maybe they could. Okay, I'm gonna open up here the floor to Mayor Virginia. Or can you hear us there, Mayor Virginia? If you would like to speak, giving you access there on your microphone. And if you would like to speak, raise your hand. For folks that are joining us here this evening during the Q&A portion, just raise your hand. I'm going to try again once more time with Mayor Virginia. Just make sure that you unmute yourself when you're asked. How this works is on our end, we unmute you. You're going to get like a pop-up box in your computer, and just click on that box to unmute yourself. That's how the system works. If you're having any technical difficulties, once again, call Juana at 786.
There you go. Yeah. Okay, I can hear you, but I just lost your picture, but I can hear you. But I don't really want to speak. I want to listen to the residents of 6th Avenue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We're gonna go now to Vice Mayor Kennedy. We could just find them real quickly here. Yeah.
Hey, Rodolfo, it's Mac. I'm here.
Vice
Can you hear me, Rodolfo?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Welcome. Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for having me. So give me some guidance here, Rodolfo. I have a number of questions that I want to ask. First of all, do I have to stick to the 3-minute time limit?
No, sir. You could go ahead.
Okay. And I just don't want to step over your bounds here, because I have quite a few questions, and I have them grouped sort of by category. So I'll tell you what category they fall under, and try to keep it organized for you guys, because I think some questions may relate to a certain person on your panel. I have a lot of questions because I've been engaged with residents quite a bit the past few months about this topic. So these are not all my questions, just so you know. I've gotten lots of emails and phone calls and social media contacts. So some of these are my questions and some come from residents as well. First, I want to say thanks to the FDOT team. When you guys came to a meeting a couple of months ago to present to us initially, we had some questions for you, and I specifically made some requests of you to add things to the presentation tonight, and you complied with all of those requests. So I want to say thanks. You added all the different street views. You did renderings. You gave us a location of a pole in advance. You sent a team out here to paint stripes along the side of the road in various places to indicate where the right-of-way is, where sidewalks and sod would be placed. So you did what we asked you to do, and I just want to acknowledge that and say thank you. So my first section of questions is about the goals of the project. Can you articulate again what the goals were, what the specific requests were, and who they came from? Because what I saw in the presentation tonight was a little bit different than what I had heard before. I just want to make sure I'm clear on what the goals were.
Team? What
the initial requests were.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Kennedy. A little bit of the background of this project. Back on April 2018, the previous village manager and a few village commissioners, they approached the FDOT directors and requested to add sidewalk to Northeast 6th Avenue along both sides of the road. I have we took over the project back in November 2019, but that's the project history that we received. There's some emails, some correspondence. In addition to that, the department initiated a feasibility study to determine if addition of sidewalk was feasible. They also initiated a signal warrant analysis for the intersection of Northeast 6th Avenue and Northeast 119th Street. But the outcome of that safety study concluded that a new signal at that intersection was not needed. This was, I believe, in late 2018. After this, scoping report was done by the department on the beginning of 2019, and then this project was programmed into the FDOT work program, and it was the design phase was initiated, as I mentioned before, on November of last year. So that's the history behind the project.
Okay, so you're saying the village manager at the time, who's no longer here, and you said a few commissioners requested specifically sidewalks, and you said there are some emails. This is slightly different than what I've heard from some former commissioners and manager myself. If you wouldn't mind forwarding those emails to our village clerk and or village manager so they can be shared with the commission, I would appreciate that, because that would help me understand who asked for what and when, because a lot of this is very new to us. I became a commissioner in January as a rather involved resident prior to being elected. I had heard one little tiny thing about crosswalks, and I attend commission meetings regularly. I never heard this discussed at length. So not everyone, there are some people, including myself, who feel a little caught off guard by this. And I just want to make sure I completely understand the background. So if you could locate those emails and forward them to the village so we could all see them, I'd really appreciate that.
We will follow up with you, Mr. Kennedy. Yes, and I'll let you know if by any chance there's any form that you guys need to complete in order to release the information, but we'll work on that.
Wonderful, thanks a lot. Okay, so some questions about the process before I ask you questions about the project itself. So you're saying there was a formal request from the village, and it came from a few commissioners and the manager at the time. My understanding of how we request things from the village is that the commission as a body speaks for the village and would make requests like this. And the commission didn't do that back at the time that this request was made to you. It sounds like it came from some individuals. Does FDOT have any concerns that the request came from individuals and not from the village in a more official capacity through the commission speaking as a body?
Yes, Commissioner.
Oh, there you are. Hi.
Whenever DOT receive an official request, of course, we'll need to address it. In this case, we addressed it. I conducted a sidewalk feasibility memo, and we can definitely find out the actual coordination email or letter format back then, what had happened, and what detailed coordination had happened. But in general, with any elected official request, FDOT will need to address it in a formal way.
Okay, so you would need to address it with a full presentation like this, or you would need to respond to it and start a conversation. And again, I don't want to make it sound like I'm challenging you on this. I really want to understand that the process was handled properly on our side as well as your side. So I just really want to make sure this was done properly. So if an individual, if for example, as a commissioner, if I made a request of you, your response would be something like this, or it would be what exactly, and what would you expect from the village back to be the official request?
We will address it.
I can step into this. Vice Mayor, that is formed as a public records request, so I can go ahead and speak to you on the side so we could proceed and guide you through it, how you could obtain that information.
Okay, I'd appreciate seeing that. Okay, you have been meeting with the village since then as well. You guys have had some additional meetings, I believe, with our former public works director, possibly the manager. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. We have met we have met with him at least 5 times, and we have been coordinating on a monthly basis we had been coordinating really closely for the decorative lightings. He approved the decorative lightings that we were proposing. So there has been extensive coordination with him. He was very involved on this project.
With the Public Works Director or our manager? Because he became our interim manager at a certain point for a short period of time.
With the Public Works Director that became your interim manager. Okay. Yes.
So he specifically requested he had a conversation with you about it. Okay, could you also provide I'm sure there are meeting minutes or something. I did see meeting minutes for one specific meeting that he personally showed me. But again, I would like to see all this background if you could, just so I understand sort of how this all came about. Okay, I have a very specific question about sort of how the process goes from here. So does the village have the ability to request, after considering your presentation, and you understand that we can't take any action tonight, this is just a workshop, a question and answer kind of session, and the commission will have to pick this up at a commission meeting. Does the commission have the ability to request that specific elements of this project be removed or be changed? What is our ability to remove or change things in the proposal?
FDOT would like to see a formal request from the village or commission board or commissioner or mayors to provide a list what you would like to see happen. And FDOT will consider internally, see how we can make it happen.
Okay, did you say individual people on the commission can, or you would prefer the commission speak to you as a group?
I think
village itself.
The village itself need to be on the same page on how the village would like to see on the overall.
Understood. Yeah, and I have to agree with that. And I think
sorry.
Yeah, by resolution. Yeah, and that's where some of the issue comes in right now, is that there is a feeling among some residents, many of whom have contacted me, and that the commission that the village did not speak to you as a body and did not make a formal request that went through the proper process from our side. And this is our issue, not yours. That sounds like it was individual requests, people talking outside of public meetings and making specific requests, and even meeting with you without the commission being aware of it, because I've been a commissioner since January and I was not aware that you were meeting with the Public Works Director who became our interim. I wasn't aware you met with him monthly. This is news to me tonight. So again, that's part of, I think, some of the confusion or hesitation about the process is the process that went through. I have another very specific question. Can the village at this point request that the project be canceled? And that could we say no thank you to the whole thing? And I'm not suggesting that we would. I just want to know what our options are here.
Yes, the village can request to cancel the project or stop the project.
And would you honor that request, or is that something you would take into consideration?
If the village and the public don't see a need for the project, we definitely don't see why we need to continue to have the project.
Wonderful. Okay, there's some background noise that's kind of loud in my ear. Okay, I had a specific question from a resident of 6th Avenue who is concerned that if the current pandemic is still taking place next year during construction, if that would impact things in any way. Can you speak to that, or is that just too premature at this point?
I could speak to that if you'd like, Baging. From experience, we have current projects throughout the city going on right now. And obviously, everybody's aware of the pandemic, Commissioner, and everybody's afraid of it, and people have concerns. A lot of the contractors that I've been dealing with have taken a lot of precautions. Their whole OSHA safety has gone to another level. Before, they used to worry about falls, they used to worry about bulldozers hitting them and so on, but now it's much more than that. For example, one contractor that I'm working with is taking temperatures twice a day, one in the morning, once in the afternoon. They did have an occasion where they found somebody who was contacted to the virus. Right away, they quarantined the whole crew and they tested everybody. So they are taking things seriously. I wouldn't say that they're taking it easily, they're not. But that really does change from contractor to contractor. Now, being that what we know is that the virus is in a contact. It moves by contact so far. Being that the contractor and his crew will be out in the street, not necessarily inside the home, I wouldn't see this as a big concern.
I should have clarified that in addition to health concerns, I actually heard from more than one resident that if they are needing to stay inside more often, that they'll basically, quote, be trapped in their house while all this work is going on out front, and it will be, it will impact their quality of life with all this construction going on when they're basically in their house 24/7. So it sounds like that's something that would have to be addressed. Thanks. I know construction won't start for over a year. So let me move on here because I have some other things to talk to you about, but thank you for that answer. So from today until the commission meets to discuss this and eventually get a resolution to you to whatever our request would be, what will you guys be working on between now and when you hear back from us? Or have you completed, are you kind of at a pause right now until you hear back from us?
Yeah. The design project will continue until we hear otherwise from the village or we receive a huge opposition for the job. Otherwise, at this time, the design is moving forward.
When you say huge opposition, do you mean from residents or from the commission?
From the village.
From the village itself. Okay. So you're going to continue on with it. Are you at 60% completion or something? I forget. You gave us a number last time you met with us.
60%, yes.
60%. So you will continue with the process until while you're here. So in other words, we should expedite our response to you. I just don't like the idea of FDOT spending your time and resources and all of our money on a project that we may come back and ask you to change. That's the reason I asked that.
We appreciate your understanding on that end.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just so you know, we meet monthly. Our next regular meeting is August 4th, and we're starting budget season tomorrow night. We have our first budget workshop tomorrow night, so we have our hands full with a couple of major things, and this obviously has to float to the top of the pile, near the top of the pile. We have a new interim manager who started last Thursday. Okay, I'm going to move on and ask you some questions about the project itself, if you don't mind. Regarding the budget, so you showed us the budget wasn't shown here tonight, but we saw a budget once before. What flexibility does the village have in requesting that money be allocated differently? For example, if there's elements A, B, and C in this project, and we said, look, we really like A and C, but we don't want B, can we request that you spend that money for B differently on enhancements to other parts of the projects or to things that aren't included in the project at all?
It really depends on the specific request. I don't have a definite answer for you, but as long as if your request, we'll investigate and see how we're able to address your request or make it happen. I don't have.
So basically, we can request whatever we want to request, and then you consider it.
Correct.
Okay. So, for example, if we said we're not interested in sidewalks, but we would ask you to contribute to the upgrade in lighting, that $400,000 money that we've got to kick in for the decorative lighting, would that be a possibility because that's an upgrade?
It could be a possibility, and now keeping in mind with the decorative lighting, the village needs to maintain it. Secondly, we look for the contribution for the decorative lighting difference.
So you're saying we could request, for example, money be moved from the sidewalk budget to the lighting budget to pay for that upgrade? We could request it?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. I'm just trying to figure out sort of what the rules are here. So when we sit down to talk, we don't do things that you tell us later we can't do or even a request. Okay, and that would include for non-budgeted items as well. So if there was something that's not in this plan at all, we could even request that.
That would be based on project specific or detail specific, Vice Mayor. I cannot address the answer.
Okay, very good. Okay, I'm going to ask you some questions about the sidewalks if we can move on to that topic. So we don't have sidewalks in 6th Avenue, and we have sidewalks in very, very few places in Biscayne Park. It was never part of the plan of Biscayne Park. Well, maybe I shouldn't say it wasn't part of the plan, but they don't exist. So what studies have you done, or how did you come to the determination that we need sidewalks? Who do you think will be walking there, and when, and for what purpose?
again, Mr. Kennedy, the project was originated based on the request from the village.
I understand that.
Yes, and the study itself was basically to check if it was feasible to provide sidewalks.
Okay, so there's no data or anything that shows us that sidewalks are necessary. It's really just because we requested it.
Basically, yes. If I'm not mistaken, I believe there were some pedestrian generators that were gathered, but I'm not completely sure.
A pedestrian generator, I'm assuming that's like a traffic study for pedestrians. I don't know what that means.
Yes, some like pedestrian traffic counts, because I believe when they did a feasibility study for the sidewalk, they did identify that there were pedestrians walking along the grass as well.
You did that study, or the village did that study?
No, it was a different consultant on behalf of the department.
On behalf of your department or on behalf of the village?
No, the DOT, on behalf of the DOT. Mm-hmm.
Understood. Okay, so you did contract with someone to do a pedestrian traffic study?
The department did, correct.
Mm-hmm. Your department did, okay. Can you produce a copy of that, please? I'd be interested to see that as well.
Yes, we can.
Is that possible? Is that possible? Okay, thank you. I'd appreciate that. And then I have a general question, and again, I'm a layperson here. I'm a salesperson by trade, you know, so I don't pretend to know what you guys know. But can you explain to me, in this kind of situation, do adding sidewalks encourage more pedestrian traffic? And where I'm going with this is, does it produce any kind of greater liability if we're sort of inviting people to walk along what I think we all agree to be an extremely busy road that the village can tell you has speeding issues? If we encourage, by putting sidewalks in, encourage more people to walk there, are we introducing any kind of a liability for the village or for you?
Well,
buzzing noise is really loud. I don't know where that's coming from. It's really loud.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mahir.
Rodolfo, is it possible to mute everybody except for?
Yeah. Let me go ahead and do that.
All right, thanks. As for the liability, Commissioner, as for the liability, it's a really tough question as who's liable if something was to happen. Now, obviously, if it's on state highway, I would assume, and this is my personal opinion, I would assume that it would be a state issue, not a village issue. Now, would the sidewalk be inviting for folks to walk on it? Yeah, I could see perhaps, not to pinpoint anybody out, but perhaps a mother wants to take a child or a couple of kids for a walk at the end of the day. Yeah, I could see that happening because right now there's no walking surface. It's a swale. Mm-hmm. And even when I was out there, honestly, it's a little uncomfortable because of all the issues that are within the area. You have grass that you got to walk on. There's no clear path. There's a lot of encroachment of trees, shrubs, and so on. There's light poles that shouldn't be where they're located. They should be towards the back. Mm-hmm. And the list goes on and on. But I could see the sidewalk inviting folks to walk more, which perhaps that's what the village is looking for. And that's what we want to hear from the village.
Sure, and that would have been our request to you, again, going back to the origins of this whole thing. I walked the entire length of 6th Avenue twice since this thing came about, this project came about, well, since I became aware of it, to put notice in on people's doors and talk to neighbors and things like that. And I purposely walked both times where the sidewalk will be located. Once was before you painted the lines and once was after, but both times I knew where the sidewalks would be, and I purposely walked over there. And I was a little unnerved walking along that busy road. I will be honest with you. It was, especially when my back was to traffic. I had a very uneasy feeling, and it wasn't because I was walking on grass. It was because I was walking along 6th Avenue. I have a quick question for you. How many? I'm a bit of a green person, and I'm trying to sort of eliminate hard surfaces from the world. How many square feet of concrete will these sidewalks add to Biscayne Park? Do you have a calculation on that?
I don't have it at the top of my head, but we could get you the square footage.
I would appreciate that. Okay, moving on here.
But
Yes.
Mayor, we have other elected officials that would like to speak.
I know you do.
Yeah, if we can, let me just give you one more question and then we could proceed. So remember,
Oh,
we're here.
okay,
So
well-
8 p.m. is advertised. So go ahead and then we'll move on with the rest, if that's okay with you. Okay.
Well, look, it's your meeting, so I have to be okay with your rules for your meeting, but I was told I didn't have a time limit, and when I talked to Rodolfo before the meeting, I'm not sure I'm talking to now, and I submitted some questions before the meeting as well. So, I mean, and I find some of these questions to be very important. So I will ask one more question, if that's what you're telling me I'm limited to, but at the end, if you have time left over and my questions have not been asked by someone else, I'd appreciate the time to jump back in here.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to look here. I'm going to jump down here to something that's rather important regarding the rights of way. So you're now showing us that there are things in the right of way, that's your land, that has been encroached upon with things. There are plants and there are mailboxes and there are things in the right of way. And that right of way is 10 feet deep, although some residents are telling me their surveys indicate slightly otherwise. But regarding items that are in the right of way, now that you're aware of those items that are in the right of way, in some cases full-size trees, what is your right and or obligation or desire to remove those items that in some cases have been there for decades, to remove those items even if you don't move forward with the sidewalk for which the right-of-way is most important? Because according to what you showed us at the beginning here, the right-of-way has to be cleared to make the sidewalk safe. And the sidewalks have to be as far off the street as you possibly can. So what is your right and obligation and desire to remove things even if you don't put sidewalks in?
Well, Mr. Kenny, there's several landscape that is blocking the clear side for vehicles getting out of, that are getting out of driveways, or
Understood.
trying to make a left or right turn lane from the side street into Northeast 6th Avenue. In addition to that, we found that there's several palm trees or trees that act as a hazard to vehicles because they do not meet the clear zone criteria for above ground objects. With that said, that's the way we see it, but we have our right-of-way or property management officer on this meeting, and I believe he will be he can give you a better explanation of what is the process and. Jesus, I'm not sure if you can.
Yeah, let me let Jesus in, guys, and then Vice Mayor, rest assured your questions will be answered. They will. We will supply it to you writtenly, so your answers will be answered. Again, we just want to give an opportunity for other folks that are waiting.
And so folks know you're referring to the fact that I submitted a spreadsheet of my questions earlier today to you. Okay, very good.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you have any follow-ups, we will be more than happy to respond to them as well.
So regarding those items in the right of way, tell me what's going to happen here, even if you don't put sidewalks in?
Yeah, let's bring in our right-of-way folks. They're available here. We have Mr. Jesus Alvarez, also our Mr. Jason Carpel and Henry Verdugo. Seems that they're having Henry. It seems like your microphone is. Henry, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you go ahead and assist with this question, please?
Well, normally, if on the department's right of way, when we have encroachments in there, and when I'm not speaking in terms of landscaping, I'm speaking in terms of improvements, things like backflow preventers, irrigation systems, things of that nature that are in the department's right of way, okay, that are not placed by the department there, have to be removed, okay? With that said, depends on the project, okay? If the commissioner asked or the vice mayor asked, I'm sorry, I don't know who the gentleman that was speaking, but if the gentleman says, if we don't put sidewalks there, okay, can those encroachments still remain? And the short answer to that is normally the department okay, will remove any encroachments that are not placed there by the department. Jesus, are you there? Jason, are you there? Do you want to add additional comments to that?
Yeah, let's see if Jesus, he's trying to unmute himself. So let's just bear with him here. If we can just unmute Jesus or Jason if they want to add information to this question. Jesus or Jason? Let's just bring it up real quick. You had it and then took it off. Hang on 1 second. Jesus? For some reason he's not unmuting himself there. Try one more time.
What we can do, Roman, what we can do also is the spreadsheet that was sent in with all the questions in there. I believe that was one of the questions that was in there. We can also do a follow-up. We can also do a follow-up to that.
Absolutely. And once again, Vice Mayor, all your questions will be answered. We will be providing that for you. We just want to give an opportunity for other folks that are joining us here this evening. So now we're going to go to Senator Pizzo, who joins us this evening. Senator Pizzo, thank you for joining us. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. And I don't wish to take much time. I just wanted to interject one point. Vice Mayor Kennedy has a number of very important questions. And then to that effect, anything that our office has, I know that you guys have to go through a sort of a public information request. We're a little easier, not to say that we're loose, but whenever anyone just casually asks us for anything, we just kind of send it over. So to Vice Mayor Kennedy, I didn't want to cut him off. I wanted him to continue to ask all of his questions. I've already sent him the initial exchange of emails as it relates to Northeast 6th Avenue improvements when I first got elected. And we'll continue with that exchange and that and provide everything that we possibly have. So I appreciate. I know this team is a little different than the first one that we met, but just by way of background, when I first got elected, I came in to meet with Secretary Wolf. We brought a number of our other state representatives and state senators with us to have a general meeting, and then we also sort of invited anybody else that wanted to tag along in Doral a couple of years ago. And then, of course, Kevin Thibault, Secretary Thibault, came down last year, and we hosted him at FIU, and we invited all 15 of the cities that I represent to come forward and sort of create their wish list or their asks, so to speak. So it was a long afternoon of that discussion. But again, to anybody, any resident or any commissioner, vice mayor, mayor that's interested in any of the stuff that we have from the genesis once we came aboard, I'm happy to send it to them. I've already sent the initial one to Vice Mayor Kennedy, but thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, and thank you again for your participation here this evening. We will proceed. We had some resident stakeholders that provided some questions via email. We're going to read some off, and then we're going to open up again to the public. Team, Mr. Rodolfo Barrientos, he asked, was there a study of traffic flow and counted the amount of cars driving through Northeast 6th Avenue? If so, when? Another question is, would we have you at least contacted to the affected residents to at least have a feel of how many or for how many are against this project? If you'd like to repeat that again, I could do so. Team?
In regards to the first portion of the question, for this project, no, there was no traffic study. As I previously mentioned, there was a traffic signal warrant analysis study done back in 2018 to determine if it was feasible to add a traffic signal light at Northeast 119th Street and Northeast 6th Avenue. And the report concluded that it was not feasible. Again, this project was originated as a request from the village. Therefore, there was no traffic study for this kind of improvements. Please note that we are not making any modification to the traffic pattern flow along Northeast 6th Avenue. So vehicular traffic will remain the same.
And again, I invite any of the other commissioners that are available, if they would like to speak, to please raise your hand. That's what we are able to see who would like to speak. As I mentioned earlier, pretty much have the entire Biscayne Park commissioners. As I mentioned, Vice Mayor Kennedy joined us, Commissioner Ross, Commissioner Samaria, and also Mayor O'Hoppen and Commissioner Tudor. So if you guys like to speak, we invite you to please raise your hand. Like that we will be able to identify. I'd like to read off one more question here from the public.
Rodolfo, I'm sorry, I didn't finish answering the second
I'm sorry.
part of that question.
Yeah,
I
I'm
believe
sorry.
they asked if we will be informing the residents and
Yes.
kind of have a feeling of their support to the project. Well, basically, that's why we are doing this public workshop. Also, that's why we try to provide a presentation to the commissioners meeting a few months ago. And this is a typical procedure that any FDOT project will follow. We're still on the design phase, and we're open to analyze any suggestions, any comments that you may have, and we'll keep them into consideration for our final design. Thank you.
Thank you, Hans. Okay, we're gonna go now to have your available here. Commissioner Ross. Commissioner Ross, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay,
Well now?
thank you for joining us.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to thank the state and the Department of Transportation for the resources that are being brought to bear to our little stretch of East 6th Avenue, State Road 915. I appreciate that a lot of work has gone into this project, and I hope that the discussion is not one of for or against, because my position is that any enhancement is when we can use state money to enhance our community, that's a good thing. So I'm behind that. But that being said, I want to make sure that the enhancement in our community fits our residential character. And so I'm interested in knowing from the community, the people, particularly the people who live on 6th Avenue, those things that we can work together to resolve, to bring something of value to Biscayne Park. And that's all I wanted to say. I'm here more to listen to what the community wants. And I appreciate Senator Pizzo being here with us. I know that he's a great supporter. And I appreciate all of our commissioners being a part of the discussion. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Ross. Okay, once again, I invite any of the other commissioners who would like to speak to raise your hand. That's how we identify you. In the meantime, I'll read some more questions that we've received from the public via email prior to the virtual public meeting. Ms. Barbara Cole, she asked, would it be possible to remove the median and add more swale area? Team?
Okay, as for the median, would it be possible to remove it and add more swale area to the outside? It's not possible to modify the median that easily. The median has a historic touch to it, so any modification to the median will require a special process and special approval. In addition, think about it this way: if we remove the median, it's acting like a buffer. Then we would have to put the two opposite lanes up against each other, which might increase the crashes that are happening on 6th Avenue. So it might not be the best approach to address the request. Thank you.
Okay. She also would like to ask here, are you going to be widening the street surface? Can lanes be narrowed to increase the swale width?
Okay, as for the widening of the street surface, no, we do not plan on doing a general widening along the project. We do not plan on doing that. In addition, the lanes are currently 10 feet, which is actually substandard for this roadway. It should be actually 11 feet. So at 10 feet, you're already below the standard. So therefore, we cannot narrow them any further.
Furthermore, she continues, a traffic signal is needed at Northeast 6th Avenue and 119th Street. We've had many accidents because the visibility is extremely limited on the west side of the road. Team?
Go ahead, Hans.
Okay, sure. Thank you. Well, it's a pretty similar question to the one that I responded. There was a traffic signal warrant analysis done specifically for that intersection. I'm not sure if it was based on a request from the village itself, but the DOT did a study, and it was determined that a signal was not warranted or feasible at that intersection. Please note that our proposed improvements are calling for some mitigation improvements. As Mehar mentioned during the presentation, we are proposing some special pavement markings, reminding the vehicles, the drivers, that the posted speed is 30 miles per hour. We are also installing 2 new speed feedback signs. I know that one of the existing ones that you guys have at the south end of the project is not working, and the other one on the north end is obsolete. So those are some of the mitigation strategies that we're proposing as part of this project.
Again, please note, everyone who's attending here, all your questions will be answered written. We will provide this on our project page after this virtual public meeting. They will be available in a short time. We received numerous amount of questions, so we're trying to get through as much as we can, and we're going to make sure that we do have give an opportunity to the public who is holding. Make sure you raise your hand. That's how we're able to identify you. I'd like to read another question, team. Mr. Damian Sarno, he says, I saw the proposed work on Northeast 6th Avenue from Northeast 113 until 121 and noticed the reduction to 2-to-1 lane traffic. As much as this will benefit cyclists, have you considered the strain during rush hour that is already happening due to country day school? Sometimes even crossing the bridge, put up the congestion, but I'd rather FDOT wouldn't increase it. Team?
Yeah, Rodolfo, let me just clarify. This project does not reduce the number of lanes as it stands today. Actually, the graph that's showing on the screen is what the project is proposing, which is just adding sidewalk and some drainage and the lighting system. Again, we are not proposing reducing the number of lanes. Therefore, the other concern was with the amount of traffic, I believe, and the bike lanes. All that will remain the same.
Okay. Thank you. We have a question from a question box. Again, you can submit your question in the question box as well. Why is there only one option for decorative lighting? There are so many black posts. Ideally, the park should select posts. The park, meaning Biscayne Park, should select posts they will eventually place everywhere, and we'd like more options. And I'd like to add to that one too. He said, I have 8 signs in my yard. It looks awful. Can you place the speed sign somewhere else? I would suggest placing it in the median, in the middle instead. Team?
Yes, let me open the first part of the question.
Sure.
As I mentioned during the presentation, we did coordinate extensively with the Public Works Office. We met with the Public Works Director several times, and we presented different type of lighting features. We also explained all the constraints that we had with regards of overhead utility lines, overhead clearances, and we ended up selecting these 2 lighting features that we're proposing, and he was very happy with decorative lighting that we were proposing. We also coordinated the temperature of the lights. All the little details were coordinated with the village throughout the design process. Chris, would you like to add anything more into detail regarding the lighting design and provide a more thorough answer to this resident, please?
Yeah, yes, I would say that we evaluated close to 100 different alternatives with at least 20 to 25 different light fixtures. And as Hans mentioned, the coordination with the village was critical as to also choosing the type of fixture, choosing the color temperature, cognizant of the mounting heights as well. We have full cutoff fixtures, so they're dark sky compliant. We have house side shields to prevent lighting trespass into the residential properties, and as well as something that's commonly used in different areas of Miami-Dade County, meaning that's the teardrop and the post-op fixture, as well as high quality LEDs.
Good, okay.
Rodolfo, if you don't mind, let me just answer the last.
Go ahead.
I believe they had a question about the amount of signs in front of their
That's right.
property.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, I wish we could get the address of that property, but so we could investigate into that a little bit more. Definitely 8 signs, it seems like a bit too much. However, we are looking at the signs all along the corridor, and any outdated signs will be removed and replaced. And even if they're located at the wrong location, they'll be removed, obviously. But if we could get the address of that property, that would be great.
Yes, and I'd like to share my information for those attending here today, and I'll post it a little later. You also received it on your registration. After the meeting or at any time, you can contact me at 786-519-7160. That is 786-519-7160. Or you can send me an email at roman@iscprgroup.com. That is roman@iscprgroup.com. Any follow-up questions or anything that you need, I will be able to go ahead and help you out with that. And also, we have all the presentations that have been shown here tonight on our project page. And we'll put up that link right after we're done with showing the roll plot that you see on the screen. But you will be able to obtain all the information that we've shown here tonight on our project page on FDOTmiamidade.com. I'd like to proceed with some more questions received from the public. We have here, we would like to see the project with one traffic lane in the north and southbound direction, sidewalks, drainage, and bike lanes. Says, for your information, the village commission never approved any of the plan you're presenting. It seems as though a road commissioners decided this was a good idea. If the village does not approve the plan, can FDOT proceed? I think we've answered this, but team?
Yes, as I previously mentioned, there is this process called lane elimination study that the FDOT has as a procedure. When a municipality wants to eliminate a lane elimination study can be done. There is a guidance for the municipality to follow, and there is an application form. So this is something that we will share with the village, if they want to, and they can look into this and request to see if a study for this lane elimination is feasible.
Once again, I'd like to invite you to provide your question on the question box located on the upper right-hand corner of the control panel. You can write your question there. We will be reading them out there today. If we aren't able to get to them, we will provide a written response, which will be available on our project page. You can find all that information once again on our project page, or you can reach out to me via email at roman@iscprgroup.com. That's roman@iscprgroup.com, or by phone, that's 786-519-7160. We just received some more questions here. Okay, north of 121 Street, the sidewalk is not so invasive. And far from the street with a green space in between, why the portion of Biscayne Park sidewalk and 6th Avenue is so different from the south of 113th Street and north of 121st Street portions? Team?
Yes, as you can see, the typical section north of 121st Street is completely different. You have curb and gutter, and then you have sidewalk. So we're talking about raised sidewalk. Our proposed improvements and the way this project was scoped and programmed was to provide flush sidewalks, as you can see on the typical section. So So basically, it's a completely different typical. In order to provide curb and gutter and have raised sidewalk, as you can see north of 121st Street along Northeast 6th Avenue, the outside lanes will need to be reconstructed to promote positive drainage and convey the water along the gutter line. So it's a different scope. It will require more reconstruction. It will be more invasive.
Thank you, team. I'll proceed here with another question. We have here. Why haven't different types of pavement been proposed to promote speed reduction in the area? Team?
As for the pavement itself, there's no pavement that reduces the speed. There's different things, there's different features in the roadway that we could place. However, we did take a look at that, and because of the speed of the road and because of the context classification of the roadway, we cannot place things like speed tables. We cannot place rumble strips, none of that stuff. However, we did look at where we could notify drivers of the speed limit, where we could make them more aware of it. And obviously that's on the both approaches to the village. That's why we're adding, as you see here on the plan view, we're adding the speed limit signs to remind the drivers of the speed. We're also updating the speed feedback sign, which is a very helpful feature. It always tells you what speed you're going at to remind you that, hey, this is a 30-mile-per-hour zone. Don't go any faster than that.
Thank you, Mahir. Following up another question here. Are there any ADA requirements governing State Road 915 that require sidewalks to be installed to provide accessibility from Miami Shores to North Miami? Team?
Ideally, any state road should have a sidewalk path. You know, it can be either a sidewalk or a shared use path. So in theory, yes, of course, this is an old road. We understand it has been there for a while, and it will be an opportunity to provide sidewalks.
One more question here before we open up to the public. And again, we go ahead and submit your question on the comment box, on the question box right below your comments and questions, and we'll read it out here during the public workshop meeting. A statement here: drainage and sidewalk will be great to have. I was wondering if my hedge will be damaged due to this project. How should I go about it? This hedge protects and separates us from this busy street and has been in our property for over 30 years. Therefore, it is grandfathered in. Please advise. She did not supply the address, but we do have right away here and team.
Can you please provide your address so we can look into a roll plot and see which will be the impact of your landscape? We did include any impact to the landscape within the right-of-way line. So you can see if your landscape, your shrub will be have to be pruned or removed. So you can have a better idea of what is the impact.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we're gonna open up now to the public. Again, keep your questions coming in. We'll go throughout the evening here. We're on until 8 p.m. and I'll be reading it to the public. So we do have a member from the public. We have Mr. Howard. Are you available there? Please make sure to state your first name, address, and email when speaking, of course, followed by your comment.
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. How are you? And reminder, you will have 3 minutes, okay? But if time remains, we will go back.
No problem. Thank you so much. My name is Howard Goldman. My address is 11950 Northeast 6th Avenue. I'm a resident of 6th Avenue. First, I'd like to say good evening to all of our FDOT partners, Biscayne Park Mayor, Biscayne Park Commissioners, and of course, my fellow Northeast 6th Avenue residents and all Biscayne Park residents who've taken the time and effort to be here this evening. First, I'd like to echo Commissioner Ross's comment about your participation and effort thus far in this project. We appreciate all you've done thus far. Regardless of who and how this came about, correctly and incorrectly, we are here where we are today, and we appreciate that. And I look forward to our commission working closely with you to find a great solution to improving our Northeast 6th Avenue project. We've put together a coalition of Northeast 6th Avenue residents in a very short period of time. And I'm glad to say we've had 15 participants in the last days in 2 Zoom meetings to come up with what I'd like to share with you as our joint feeling on this project. We're all in favor of seeing improvements to the gateway to Biscayne Park. For the most part, the majority are for sidewalks and all are for drainage improvements along 6th Avenue. A major concern to all is the drainage and the flow of rainwater during heavy rains. The way we understand it, the drainage issue will not be done unless sidewalks are included in this project. And I noticed that Vice Mayor Kennedy had made some comments along those lines, asking those questions, what can and will be done should this project go away. As the presentations show us, you're showing a 4-lane roadway, 2 on the northbound and 2 on the southbound lanes. We would all like to see this change to 1 lane in each direction. This will not only allow for the sidewalk FDOT proposes, but we would also add a dedicated bike lane. The additional ROW space FDOT refers to beyond the sidewalk could then be used as continued green space on 6th Avenue and keep with the allure of our beloved village, a quaint, green, friendly bird sanctuary. Several reasons, but not limited to the below, for our desired reduction to 1 lane in each direction are half the exhaust and noise pollution in dense traffic times, slowed traffic speeds, safer distancing from the homes on 6th Avenue. Thus again, a cleaner, greener, and safer gateway to Biscayne Park. One of the things that I would like to also mention, in just hearing some actual figures, was you had said that our lanes are now 10 feet and they should in fact be 11 feet. So in that conversation, in my calculation, and I'm very bad at math, but 11 times 2 would be 22. If you take 1 11-foot lane and 1 6-foot sidewalk and add a 4-foot bike path, that reduces what you currently have by a foot to give you more space on that 1 lane to 11 feet. So I believe that every one of the things that we are asking to be considered would benefit all and be a win-win situation for all. Thank you so much for your time, and I heed to anybody else in 6th Avenue who would like to speak and you have time for.
Thank you, Mr. Goldman. Appreciate it, your comment. Thank you. Okay, we'll move forward now. We have here Mr. Hans Mueller. Mr. Hans?
Good evening. Thank you for taking my question. And I think can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you. My name is Hans Mueller. I live at 1007 Northeast 115 Street. I've been a resident of Biscayne Park since I was a kid and know the area extremely well. I completely understand and sympathize with the concerns of the folks on 6th Avenue. I also completely understand and recognize the challenges that are faced by the traffic volume on 6th Avenue, the lack of sidewalks on 6th Avenue, and the desire to keep Biscayne Park in its present state and preserve the beauty of the community as reflected throughout the community, where we have many wide medians that help promote all of the good things that we like and love of the park. I would like to suggest very briefly that we reconsider this program by moving towards a center median that is wider, that will accommodate for a walkway, as has been done in many communities throughout Dade County, where lighting is situated in the middle of the median that is wider, thereby allowing us to have the 2 lanes of traffic. I would love to have only 1 lane of traffic north and south through 6th Avenue. I'm not sure that that is a reasonable request based on current traffic patterns. So if we were able to expand our roadway north and south to where you now have proposed sidewalks, and I recognize that that brings the road closer to those residents, and I'm not the expert here to tell you how to mitigate that. But if we could move towards a wider median that would accommodate a walkway, lighting through the 6th Avenue area that would connect to the sidewalks at 113th Street where you have the walkway, and also at 121st Street, and have those crosswalks also at the major streets, 119th and such, and then put, as someone had previously suggested, not speed bumps, but a different type of road surface, i.e. bricks or pavers. I'm not sure what would be the appropriate application. It would help with slowing down the community. I've seen that take place in other communities where these issues have taken place. I think it also obviously would call for a completely new revamping of this project. But my concern is that if we do move forward with this project as currently projected, and knowing that our lanes are smaller than they need to be, what protects us in the future from having the appropriate authorities come through and say to us, listen, the traffic is such, we need these lanes, they've got to be wider, and now we lose our center lane, or excuse me, center median, and or now we have to revamp the sidewalks, and we end up wasting tax dollars by having to do a project all over again. I believe there is a possible middle ground here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. We're now going to go to Commissioner Samaria, who joins us. Commissioner? Commissioner Samaria?
First off, I want to thank everyone for coming tonight and let you know that the commission will work with you to bring the best solutions for the residents of Biscayne Park and the residents. I basically like to continue to hear what the residents have to say. A lot of the questions that I had was answered tonight, so I like to go through a couple of them that I think is fast that we can go through. The church that we have that's near our property has school on 6th Avenue for a block or two. Are we going to make that into a school zone? Will there be a sign up there for a school zone? It's right on the corner of 113th and 6th Avenue. We have the church there and they have school. So we're going to put up a school zone.
Team?
We will look into it, and if it is a registered school, then yes, we will add some signs for the school.
Okay, good. We plan on 115th Street and Northeast 6th Avenue. Are you planning to put a curve on corners so people that make turns don't run into the swale area? An example is on 115th Street and 6th Avenue.
No, that is not part of the scope. You're talking about adding curves within the median or on the outside?
On the outside of it.
Yeah, that is not part of the plan, no.
Okay. Okay. Let's see a couple more. Could FDOT join forces with FP&L to put the electrical lines on 6th ground underground? And that way we can keep the lights that we have already there. Also, part of that, if we're placing our lighting, shouldn't be replaced with the same type we have. If you will do do this, then can we keep the lighting that, if you're not gonna do this, can we keep the lighting that we have instead of having to pay extra for decal lighting? Because the lighting on 6th Avenue look pretty good.
Yeah. Chris, you want to chime in on the lighting?
Yeah, so currently the lighting that is out there, per any reports reviewed during scoping, has several deficiencies. There were light poles that were damaged due to Hurricane Irma. The existing lighting has National Electric Code safety violations due to the service voltage. The existing lighting was at a different illumination criteria than is today, hence it's already deficient. So what we have proposed is now a current decorative lighting system that meets all applicable FDOT as well as national standards.
Okay, the last one that I have, and I know you talked about it, but I'd like to go more into it. If we're gonna do sidewalk, could you explain more how it's going to affect residents as far as their swale area, they're gonna lose part of their area near their house? I'm hoping I'm explaining it right.
Yeah, just to be clear and to be all on the same page, the sidewalk is proposed within the right-of-way, so residents will not be losing any of their property. What we're requesting is for landscaping that is placed outside of the properties and within the right-of-way to be removed.
Okay. I'd like to hear more from more residents.
Commissioner, I'm sorry, I think that your first question was an answer regarding the FPL going underground.
Yes. Yes.
I wanted to point out that during the initial design phase, when we started working on the lighting, we did contact FPL just to see if they had any future plan on replacing the wood poles that they have. I know that they had installed some new concrete poles at some segments along Northeast 6th Avenue, but there's some other wood poles that the electric line is very low. And the response was that they have no plan on upgrading this. Now, in terms of replacing the lighting system into an underground line, that's something that the FDOT cannot force FPL to do so. But as far as we coordinated with FPL, they have no future plan on upgrading or replacing the lines along Northeast 6th Avenue.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to, if it's possible, if we can hear more from the residents.
Of course, Commissioner. And thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Somebody.
Rodolfo, we cannot hear you.
All right. Okay, there. Sorry about that. I'm going to read off a question off the question box that we received. My name is William Pierce. I live just off of 6th Avenue and 115th. Well, we're right there, 115th. I have a question about the drainage you are proposing. I understand correctly, they are French drains, so these will never be connected to any drain system. Is there any concern that a French drain would just get clogged as they often do with debris? Who is in charge of cleaning those drains on a regular basis? Biscayne Park or FDOT? And if FDOT will Biscayne or Biscayne Park be in charge for those cleaning? Who's in charge of it, in other words?
Okay, let me see if I could answer that question. There's a lot of questions in that question.
Yeah.
First of all, the inlets have baffles, which will block sediments. They will block any oil, grease, any bottles that make it into the inlet from entering into the French drain. So right there, we put a device to prevent those those elements from entering the system and blocking the French drain. As for the maintenance of the drainage system within the DOT right-of-way, it is the DOT's responsibility.
I'm sorry, let me add something else. Is DOT will maintain the drainage system within FDOT right-of-way as long as it has been installed by DOT. I'm sorry, let me repeat that. There was some audio issues. I was saying that FDOT will maintain any drainage system within FDOT right away, as long as that inlet has been installed by the department. Per se, if there's an existing catch basin, and I noticed that there's some inlets that are by the right-of-way line, mainly on driveways or small asphalt aprons, if there has been installed by the property owner, then they will not be maintained by the department. But anything that we will be proposing will, yes, be maintained by the department.
Thank you, Hans. Mahir. I'd like to add another one here in respect to drains. Would the new sidewalk cause water to flow towards the home, or the sidewalk be sloped towards the new drains?
All right, the sidewalk, let me move to the typical, but the sidewalk is sloped towards the roadway. The design took in consideration the rainfall and took in consideration how we would mitigate the added water. Now, as you see here on the typical section, it is sloped to towards the swale, where we will be placing inlets and collecting that water, conveying it into the systems. We did not design it for the water to go into the properties. It actually acts in some locations as a small, think of it as a bump to prevent the water from entering the private properties. Thank you.
Thank you, Mahir. I'd like to revisit a question. We have the address. This is a person that was questioning the drainage sidewalk and how it would impact the hedge and if it was damage it. The property is listed at 11619. Yep, there you go. Northeast 6th Avenue. So I was wondering if my hedge will be damaged due to this project. How should I go about it? This hedge protects and separates us from this busy street and has been in our property for over 30 years. Therefore, it is grandfathered in.
Well, based on our evaluation and analysis, it seems that your hedge is outside DOT right away. Shay, can you confirm that, please?
Let me just open up Shay. She's there.
Hi, yes. Yes, at this location, actually, the hedge that is there is outside of the right-of-way. It's actually behind a chain link fence that appears also to be at the right-of-way line, behind the right-of-way. So at this particular location, we have not identified any impacts, any landscape impacts.
Thank you, Shay. We're going to now open up the floor to the public. Again, we do have Mike Oliva. Mike Oliva, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Okay, if you could provide your address, your email, and of course your comment.
Sure. My name is Mike Oliva. My wife Melanie and I live at 590 Northeast 121st Street. That's our swale with all the signs in it. So I appreciate you made a note of that and had a look. Thank you very much. I appreciate your consideration there. I just wanted to take a second to thank State Senator Pizzo and the Biscayne Park Commissioners who are taking part in this meeting with us today. We as residents of 6th Avenue obviously have a lot of concerns regarding this project. And so I wanted to thank the folks from FDOT as well for taking the time to hear us out and work with us on this. Thank you. I also wanted to take a moment to acknowledge and thank my neighbor, Howard Goldman, for taking the time to organize us and put us all together in a group. We as an association now of Biscayne Park 6th Avenue residents feel like we have a more unified voice in this process. I wanted to reiterate, I guess, the comments that he made and say that we as a group stand fully behind what he said. We are interested in sidewalks, but we want them under terms that we feel would be beneficial to not just the residents of 6th Avenue, but everyone in Biscayne Park. We need roadways that enhance, I guess, the beauty of our community. We are a bird sanctuary, we are a tree sanctuary, and it's important to us that we maintain the aesthetic of our park and if anything, use this project to enhance that beauty, including, thank you for mentioning this, by the way, having a study done to see about removing one lane of traffic in each flow of 6th Avenue. specifically because I can tell you in the 6 years that my wife and I have lived here, we've had no end of traffic accidents in front of our house. I mean, I remember for the first few months that we lived here, I was out there with a broom every few days, brooming up glass from, you know, cars that had smashed up. We've had cars wreck against trees in our home and do no end of damage. And we've seen cars flip over. It's really, this street is a danger to all of us because people do not remotely respect the speed limit. 40, 50 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone is very common. I'm sorry, but the speed signs that remind people how fast they should be going, this is Miami. No one cares about that, right? People ignore that wholesale. And really, I would like to see a project that's going to do more about that. I feel that you guys could probably come up with some better ideas about how to reduce the speed going down the street and make our parks safe again. I think it's also a big consideration for our property values. That, you know, you can see there's a huge difference in the value of properties along 6th Avenue as opposed to the rest of the park. Why? Because 6th Avenue is wholesale unsafe. It is not a nice place to live at the moment because of all this speed and safety issues. You know, I talk to people who have buried countless pets because they've been run over by the crazy traffic in the street. It's a lot. And, you know, we'd like to see as residents, FDOT take the time to address that and resolve this issue for us, please. It's an issue of safety that we think really this project could help to address. Thank you very much for your time. I'll yield back to you guys.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. We're now going to go to Miss Nancy Davis. And once again, Miss Nancy, if you can go ahead and provide your address, your email, and of course your comment.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Miss Davis.
11927 Northeast 6th Avenue.
And your email?
robin6gael@aol.com.
Thank you.
I'm one of the members of the group, the 6th Avenue group. I support 90% of what was said. I was under the understanding that we were only really for sidewalks if it was entertained in a sort of different way than what you're presenting right now. So basically, I'm pretty much against sidewalks, but I'm willing to deal with them if it's presented in a way that preserves the beauty of Biscayne Park and doesn't endanger me any further. I do have another comment. Somebody earlier, I think Barbara Kuehl, had suggested removing the medians, and you were saying how that couldn't be done because they were a deterrent. Well, both of the times that my property was slammed into by a car, it was from, I'm on the east side, it was from a car that was going south on the other side of the street, and 2 different times, and drove right over the median and slammed into my property, one right into my house. So I don't think that the median is a very big buffer, but that's just a side comment. I really just wanted the commission to hear me reiterate the things that I have told them 8,000 times, that I want to retain Biscayne Park's small town feel. I don't really think the sidewalks serve that. I don't really believe that there is enough foot traffic to warrant that, being that we are a residential neighborhood and we don't get a lot of that. And although I do support everything else that my group said, and I thank you for listening to me, because it's a rough subject for me. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. With that, we will proceed now to Mr. Daniel Carbonera. Just state your address and then your comment as well, and your email. Mr. Carbonera?
Yeah, Daniel Carbonera, 12001 Northeast 6th Avenue. My email is danielcarbonera72@gmail.com.
Thank you.
I want to reiterate, I'm support what Howard present, and I would like to see a little bit of transparency on the previous request of the Commission from Biscayne Park, because it seems something popping up from 2018, and now in 2020 we are kind of a victim of something we never discussed or saw until few weeks ago, when the Commissioner McDonald was able to pop up the attention. So we would like to participate because we are living here, we are part of the community, and we are the first interest on that. So I hope in the future we can move in a more proactive way. And one of the questions I was asking if in the normal procedure, the FDOT can move forward considering to go for one-line traffic, or it will be imposed to stop this project and start a brand new one if you go for this major modification.
Okay, thank you very much for your comment. Really appreciate it. We will now move forward with our next.
Rodolfo, I think that Mr. Carbonaro had a question at the end of his
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that well.
So yes, Mr. Carbonaro, as we previously mentioned, there is a process that DOT follows. It's a lane elimination or lane reduction study, but the request has to come from the village. There's a formal request, there's an application form, and if the village requested, we can of course provide them the guidance and the form for them to request an official lane elimination. Based on that, they do a study, and if it's feasible to remove the lane, then the project can be programmed. But there's a process, and it's not warranted that it will work out.
Okay. Thank you, team. We received a question here from one of the residents. Our property is the only one with an existing sidewalk. The address is 11905 Northeast 6th Avenue. Does anyone know why it is that our property has a sidewalk, but we get a transversal section of our property to see the detail of elevation and possible water flood from the street to our property? Team?
Yeah, Rodolfo, I'm not sure if there's a question in there, but to answer, okay, we don't know why that portion of the sidewalk is there. It's a very short segment. It is substandard. It doesn't really start from any particular point or end at any particular point. It's just random. The project proposes to replace that portion of the sidewalk as shown here. This is the private property 11905, and this is the location right in front of them where we show in gray a new sidewalk.
We have another one. Oh, go ahead, Hans, go ahead.
Yeah, Rodolfo, Mejor, I think that the property owner was also asking why his property got flooded. I'm not sure if you want to elaborate on that.
Yeah, currently the existing sidewalk is very low. It's actually lower than the roadway. So water sheets off the roadway and continues going downhill. As we know, water goes to the lowest point unless it's stopped. So the existing sidewalk does not stop it in any way. The proposed sidewalk is designed to be at a certain elevation, meaning the edge of the roadway or higher. Therefore, it acts, like I said before, it acts like a little bump to stop the water from coming in and conveying it where it needs to be gone. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Okay, interim village manager Mr. John Winklejohn is asking, were traffic calming options to alter path of the road and median to impact visual question and slow traffic? So that's essentially what it is. If the traffic calming options to alter path of the road and median to impact visual question or slow traffic. Team?
I'm not quite sure what he's referring to. Yeah. However, it seems like he's referring to something that's called, I believe it's echoing or something like that, where you actually put a kink in the road and kind of meander the road a little bit to the left and then a little bit to the right. That's usually done when you have parking lanes on one side and you swap them to the left side and back to the right side. That way there's no straight line and it's not a drag race kind of feel to it. This particular road, as we mentioned earlier, it has a historic median, therefore it cannot be touched without approval of certain levels. In addition to that, there's no parking lane on the outside and we have a very small border width, which is the area from the edge of the road to the right of way to work with. So that kind of traffic slowing down, so to speak, is not doable on this kind of roadway.
Actually, team, we're going to unmute him so he can just, perhaps he can clarify the question. Village manager, can you hear us there? Yeah, I don't think he's connected, but we'll try again with your microphone in just a few. We'll go on with our next stakeholder resident who would like to speak, Mr. Ross, Mr. Charles Ross. There's a second. I will put it up. And just a reminder, if you have any questions, you can follow up after the meeting. The number is 786-519-7160. 786-519-7160. Or you can email me at Roman, R-O-M-A-N, at iscprgroup.com. That's Roman, R-O-M-A-N, at iscprgroup.com. The presentation and the road plot that you're looking at right now is available right now as we speak at our FDOT-Miami-Dade.com website. You can obtain all of the information that you've seen throughout the night. And I will post a link in just a few here in a slide so you guys can jot it down. So Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Provide your address, please, and your email and your comment. Thank you.
My name is Chuck Ross. I live at 11166 Griffin Boulevard. My email address is chuck.carosspa@gmail.com. I want to thank everyone. I want to thank you all. I want to thank Senator Pizzo and our commissioners. I want to echo a lot of, I'm not going to echo, I'm going to agree with Howard Goldman and Mike Oliva, who spoke earlier, and Nancy Davis and Danielle Carbonera. We have some serious concerns about this project, one of which is the lack of area on the swale to accommodate what you're trying to do. In fact, what I understand is that some of the swales are less than 10 feet. And as I understand it, it will be a 6-foot sidewalk and a 4-foot buffer. And if in fact the swales don't accommodate that, I'm wondering how you're going to deal with that. The second thing is, I am very concerned that you didn't do a traffic study, now that I find that out tonight. Someone mentioned this was a historic median in the middle of the 6th Avenue. That's news to me. I didn't know that. And there was always a mention of the fact that from our Vice Mayor Matt Kennedy that the beginning of this project, the initiation of this project was not brought to the public. That's clear. So maybe you could answer those questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, hello, Mr. Ross. Let me see. The first question that you had was about the swale. That is correct. It's a 4-foot swale. That's what we're left with since the border width is 10 feet. The sidewalk has to be a 6-foot sidewalk to meet the FDOT criteria. The 4-foot swale was taken into account when we did the drainage analysis, and that's what we used to design our drainage system as well. Now, as for your second question, it was about the median being historic. Yes, the landscaping, I believe it's the landscaping within the median that's historic, and that's what prevents us from modifying it freely. I can't remember all the questions now, but you had a third question. Rodolfo, is it possible to unmute Mr. Ross?
Yeah, let's bring him on again here, Mr. Ross.
Well, I didn't write it down, so I did all that from memory. So I think one of my questions, I was concerned about by the way, I'm in the part of the group with Howard Goldman and Nancy Davis and Mike Oliva and Danielle Carbonera and several other people who feel that this project needs to be re-examined. And one of the questions dealt with the fact that some of the surveys show that their swale is less than 10 feet. And how are you going to deal with putting a 10-foot project into a swell that's less than 10 feet?
Okay. According to the survey that we have and according to the right-of-way files that we've obtained, there's a 10-foot existing swale on both sides of the roadway. As part of the project also, we will involve the right-of-way department from the Florida Department of Transportation, which will be doing further examinations, verifying where the property lines are and verifying that the files are indeed correct. If there's an issue, we will go ahead and address the issue later on. We don't anticipate any issues based on as-built also and based on other files that we have received that were used in the past. Now, as for your other question about the traffic study, it shouldn't really surprise you that a traffic study was not done for a project in this kind, because we are not modifying the typical section. So in other words, we're not modifying the lane width, we're not modifying the lane numbers along the roadway. Therefore, a traffic study would not be needed. Now, in the event that the commission reaches out to DOT and makes other requests, then perhaps in the future we do need to put together a traffic study.
Let me add something to what Mehar said regarding Mr. Ross' concern about the narrow swell. Yes, the swell at most of the project north of 115th Street to 121st will end up being 4 feet in order to accommodate a 6-foot sidewalk. But please keep in mind that we are adding inlets at the low points and segments of French drain. So all these inlets and French drain systems will take care of all the additional runoff, and we'll make it work, that narrow swell. So all this has been evaluated, it has been modeled. So we have done an engineering study in order to be able to size these French drains and be able to accommodate these narrow swells. Thank you.
Thank you, Hans. Thank you, Mahir. We'll continue on with more of our residents. I'd like to mention that we are getting close to our time at 8 p.m. However, we started a little late. We'll go just a few more minutes and we'll answer some more questions. I'd like to also remind you that the questions that were submitted on the question box will be answered. You can find them soon on the FDOT-miami-dade.com website. You'll be able to see all those responses there. And you can always call me at 786-519-7160. That's 786-519-7160. Or you can email me at roman@iscprgroup.com. That is roman@iscprgroup.com. All the information shown here tonight, you can find it on our website, FDOT-miami-dade.com. That's FDOT-miami-dade.com. You can find the road plot which you're seeing right now on your screen, along with the presentation that was shown earlier. We will proceed. We're going to now key in Mr. Dan Keys. Just give us a few seconds here. Mr. Dan Keys, if you can provide your address, email, and Mr. Dan Keys, you're on.
Okay, 1107 Northeast 118th Street, FLDK@AOL.com. Several comments and questions. First of all, I think it's unconscionable that you're considering not replacing our current residential scale lighting with the same scale lighting. We have basically a property right of 30 years or so with residential scale lighting. You should be replacing it at no cost to the village. Comment one. There are several, there's a new crosswalk at 113 and 6th Avenue, one emanating from directly in front of our new village entrance sign, where you placed a very lovely crosswalk signal. I don't believe that crosswalk, the shorter one, I'll call it, is at all necessary. It's redundant. It can be taken out of there and you'll eliminate the problem of having this pole in front of our brand new sign. Okay. I would ask you to provide more information regarding the sidewalk width situation as being required at 6 feet. I'd like to have you advise the village how that can be, a request can be made to reduce that to 4 feet if at all possible, 5 feet if absolutely necessary, go around the light poles and telephone poles if necessary by diverging the sidewalk. It's a residential community, strictly residential community. We have 6 people a month that walk that street, and that's not going to change. As long as you provide the minimum width for ADA accessibility, you should be able to reduce that sidewalk down from 6th Avenue. That will provide much of what the people on Northeast 6th Avenue are desiring, which is a greener travelway through the community. I would also argue that there's a historic aspect to the median. Been here 52 years, never heard that. The landscaping that's there now is about 10 years old. The fact that maybe it is a landscapable space might be historic. There are some situations where trees are impacted. One at southbound Griffin Boulevard at 6th Avenue. There's a very large mahogany tree there that some serious investigation needs to be done as to whether the sidewalk that's proposed is going to negatively impact that too much. There's a tree being removed at 115th Street and Northeast 6 on the west side. I would question and ask you to see if that can be reconsidered. Give me just one moment to go through my notes. You know, so if one of the existing wooden poles that are there servicing telephone or electric or service lines is in the middle of your sidewalk, a new sidewalk, what happens with that pole? Who pays for it? How does it get moved? Even if it's, I'd actually like an answer for that. You know, if one ends up in the middle of your sidewalk, what do you do?
It will remain there, sir.
Really, in the middle of your sidewalk, new sidewalk?
No, based on our design, we will have the sufficient clear width with the poles on the middle of the sidewalk, correct? Okay. So we meet the required clear width for utility poles. The utility poles are going to remain in place. So you cannot move them.
So you actually know the facts. So that's it. Okay. All right. Listen, I also want to tag on to the reduction to 1 lane situation. I would like my village commission to look into that process and possibly go through with it. And I would tell you that some of the drainage structures that you have between the ends of medians will impact the irrigation supply lines for that median, and that needs to be looked at right away so that you don't mess us up that way. Okay.
We have provisions in the plans for the contractor to retrofit any damaged irrigation line, but most likely they will not be impacted based on the as-built of the irrigation system that we have.
Okay. Okay. Very good.
Okay, Mr. Keys, we'd like to give an opportunity for another call since we're already past our time if we advertise at 8 p.m.
Thank you.
Again, yeah, thank you. Again, everyone can shoot me an email if they have any follow-up questions. Roman at iscprgroup.com. That is Roman, R-O-M-A-N at iscprgroup.com, or you can call me 786-519-7160, 786-519-7160. I'm going to read one more question here from the comment box team, and we'll take one more phone call, and we'll go ahead and conclude the meeting. Also, this meeting will be available as well. It is being recorded as a friendly reminder. Okay, team. Maria Sanchez, she lives on 11505 Northeast 6th Avenue. She says, I see a light being placed right in the canopy of our nature oak tree. Sidewalk would be right against the tree trunk. How would this all be installed without damage? Team?
Yes, can you allow Shay to to talk,
Yeah.
please, so she can explain, because we have a special system to avoid encroaching into the tree roots.
Yeah, Shay, go ahead.
Correct. So what we've done, and this is a great instance here with the live oak, where the trunk of the tree is just outside of the right of way, yet we know that the root system is well within the right of way. We have designed a special detail for a ramping system that allows the sidewalk to be ramped over. So therefore, we're not excavating down into the existing grade. We're not damaging the root system of that tree. And so essentially it's ramping over the existing earth there. And I do believe the light pole, the height, Chris, you could speak to the height of the light pole, and that we're confirming that if we have to do any pruning, it will be selective pruning to the canopy to allow for the light pole to be installed at that location.
Yes, and the light right now is currently 3rd mounting height.
Thank you, team. We will now take one more call, but as a friendly reminder, all the questions that were asked in our question box and questions that we received via email will be answered. We'll post those answers or responses on our website, FDOTmiamidade.com. Also, you can follow up with questions. You can shoot me an email, roman@iscprgroup.com, or you can call me 786-519-7160. And all the information shown here tonight will be available as well on our website, from the plot that you're looking at right now and the presentation that was shown earlier. It's on our FDOTmiamidade.com website, but I will, as soon as we're done with this, I will put up the slide so you can go ahead and obtain that information on that link. So we're going to open up to Mr. David Raymond, who has been unknown here for some time. Mr. David, you're unmuted. You can go ahead and provide your address and email, Mr. David Raymond. No. Some issues there. Mr. David?
Hi, this
Okay,
is David
go ahead.
Raymond.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir.
11520 Northeast 9th Avenue. Email address is obi1@bellsouth.net. I want to thank all of you for being on the call, everyone, and for the hard work that FDOT has done in this process. I don't live on 6th Avenue. I do support the vision that Howard and his fellow residents of 6th laid forward. I think that would be really, whatever happens there, the people who don't live on 6th Avenue really, I think, shouldn't maybe have the same weight as the people who live on 6th. It's their front door. So I would hope that our town and our commission would defer to them on ultimately what could happen. So my specific question is, having formerly been a state employee and knowing how your budget process works, what is the time frame if we decided to change something on here? I see your deadline here is, what you're looking at working isn't until next year. So are you on a multi-year budget where you have money for this? Or like, what would be the deadline for our village to get back with you and say, here's what we want, here's what we don't want, go back, rework the plans? That's sort of what I'm looking for as a time frame.
Right now, the project budget is scheduled for both design and construction. That's what we showed in the presentation earlier. The construction we anticipate to start in 2022. Now, depending on how the project or how the village vision or resolution on this corridor, would the village willing to seek for one lane? If it's seeking for one lane with bike lane, things like that, that's a completely different scope. It turns into a planning process, basically. If the project move forward as a sidewalk project, of course, the design and the construction schedule stays as it is.
Thank you very much, Mr. Raymond. Team. Okay, everyone. As I stated before, the questions that were provided here on our comment box will be answered soon. All the answers and responses will be available on our website at fdotmiamidade.com. And right now, I'm going to share the link where you will be able to obtain all of the information that was presented here tonight. This evening, it will be available for you as we speak. You can go out there right now. That is the link that you can visit, and you can download the row plot and the presentation itself. And soon the questions with responses, we will be posting that out there. You can contact me as well if you have any follow-up questions. The number there is 786-519-7160. The email roman@iscprgroup.com. And for any other questions on any other projects, you can visit our website, fdotmiamidade.com. And the link there at the bottom is where you can obtain all of the information that was presented out here during this evening and a virtual public meeting. With that being said, this meeting itself was also recorded. We'll be posting this as well, and you can go ahead and go back and listen to it. We want to thank you. We thank the team. We want to thank the commissioners and elected officials that joined us this evening. We appreciate everyone's comments and questions. Thank you very much. Everyone have a great night. And again, if you have any follow-up questions, my contact is right there on your screen. You can jot it down. The phone number 786-519-7160 and the email roman@iscprgroup.com. Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone. Have a great evening. And thank you very much for joining us. And we look forward to speaking to you in the near future. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.